So here we are, entering the 6th year of occupying Iraq. And I keep thinking about Iran. I keep thinking about that moment in the coming months when it's too late and the bombs have left the airplanes. And we're going to see the footage of the children and the men and the women blown to pieces and the people wailing and screaming. And we're going to ask ourselves what we have been doing these past many months that was more important than preventing this. And I think about this because it's a new war, but it's no different from every day. The hell we have been inflicting every day on the people of Iraq for over 5 years now. What is it that's more important that any of us can be doing than devoting ourselves to ending the occupation of Iraq and ending it now? I don't know. Our Vice President, Dick Cheney, this week said that the occupation of Iraq is a success. And that may be for the Project for a New American Century, for controlling Iraq's oil, for raising the profits of oil companies, for building permanent bases from which to attack other nations. It may be a gleaming success. But not for most people, not for the dead, not for the wounded, not for the displaced, not for those living in this destroyed remnant of a nation. I don't know what else we can possibly imagine is more important than ending this thing. We can work on an election campaign, but we have no reason to believe that our votes will be counted. We can do what candidates tell us to do, but the best way to help a candidate like Barack Obama win would be to move him to opposition against the agenda of his opponent and the agenda of the occupation of Iraq. Move him to demand now a filibuster of any future funding of this next over $100 billion. Move him to bring the troops home, not move them to Afghanistan. And move him to hold accountable the people who took us into Iraq. He would have a landslide. And if the Senate filibusters or the House blocks the funding, we go into illegal funding, and we then go into impeachment, and we then force Senator John McCain to choose between the least popular president and vice president in history and the Constitution and the American people and the demand of the crimes that are laid out on our televisions. Impeachment would be a gold mine for those who care about elections. But that's not what most of us care about. Most of us care about the next 10 months of inflicting hundreds of thousands of unnecessary deaths, of potentially new wars on top of existing ones, and of allowing hundreds of thousands of people to die who could have been saved with the money we are flushing into the occupation of Iraq. 10 months is a very, very long time. And Congress can end the occupation now, can cut off the legal funding with a filibuster in the Senate, requiring only one senator to step forward and take the lead, and 40 others to come along. 41 senators ends it. Or, and we only need one, the Senate or the House, or in the House, the leadership could choose not to bring it up, or a majority could vote no on bringing it up or on passing it. This can be done, and it is the only thing that Congress can do. And there is a growing realization of this, that there is nothing else, that good bills are vetoed, that bad bills become laws, and that mixed bills have the good parts signing statemented. So you may be working to get good bills passed. Do it next year. Do it when there's some purpose to it. This week, pay attention to the words that we've seen from the Winter Soldier event, from the men and women back from Iraq, explaining the crimes they were part of, the crimes they witnessed, the crime that is our occupation of that country. The international media has covered Winter Soldier. The independent and the online media have covered Winter Soldier. And there has been one article in the Washington Post. To my knowledge, that's the extent of the corporate media coverage. I'm not sure we would have lost corporate media coverage had we brought the peace movement to Washington, D.C. on March 15th. But the fact is we wouldn't have gotten much. And if we make March 19th a day of uprising in this country, we can get much more. We can change the discourse. Marching around on Saturdays is in the past now. We're taking a weekday. We're taking a day when Congress members are home in their districts. We're going to their district offices all across the country in 435 places. We're going to Washington, D.C. We're shutting down the IRS that spends our money killing innocent people. We're shutting down the American Petroleum Institute that bribes our Congress legally to launch wars and foreign occupations. We are shutting down the war machine. We're putting our bodies in the way of the war machine on March 19th. And we need you to be with us in Washington and around the country. You can risk arrest or not. There are roles for everyone, but we need you. We need you to go to resistinmarch.org or 5yearstoo-many.org and get involved wherever you are. We need you at the very least to not go to work on Wednesday, March 19th. Look at sickofit.com and consider being sick that day, or better yet, phoning in for a peace day. You're taking a day off for peace. And while you're home, go to iraqfaxin.com and send in faxes to your Congress member with images that you want him or her to have in mind when they consider the next mammoth funding bill putting our great-grandchildren further into debt this coming month for an occupation that the majority of the people around the world, in Iraq, in the United States, and in our active duty servicemen and women in Iraq, all want ended. If there is anything about democracy that this Congress is going to consider, it must take into account all of those majorities demanding that they end the occupation now, and they will be heroes. The popularity of Congress will skyrocket if it finds its spine, and we can help with that transplant this week, Wednesday, March 19th. Get out there, end this thing. We can do it.
We got an issue in America. Too many OBGYNs aren't able to practice their love with women all across this country.
Well, the Supreme Judge has stopped all vote counting, and they put me in that old White House. Tried to say I didn't know